You missed the introduction. It don't matter. And there came one of the angels, 7 angels, which had 7 vials full of the 7 plagues, and talked to me, saying, Come hither, and I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away into the spirit, not physically. All right? He is in a spirit stage now, not physically. To a great high mountain, Mount Zion, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of where? Heaven. Now, when it talks about heaven, now, according to Strong, it is not what we see or the atmosphere. It is the literal heaven. It is descending from where Christ now lives down. Okay? It is descending out of God's heaven, this holy Jerusalem. And it is a city, and it is described as out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Now, he is going to start describing what this place is. Now, this is a literal place. This is not pretend. It is not symbolic. This is a literal city that is going to be coming down, okay? Having the glory of God, okay, now, and her light, the light of this city, and I want to kind of give you some info on this in a minute, was like unto a stone, most precious, even like jasper stone, clear as crystal. Now, jasper is not a clear stone. Jasper is a red stone, okay? But he is describing this city that is going to be coming down like jasper stone, but it is a clear, translucent jasper. The only stone that we have that is a clear stone is what? Diamond, all right? And we talked a little bit last week about the Feast of Dedication. If you'll go back to John chapter 10, verse 22. I got a friend of mine, he called me earlier before I left for church. And he said, what are you teaching on tonight? And I said, Revelations. He said, you have to sit down with me one day and explain that book. And I said, it'll take more than a day. So, all right. In John chapter 10, I believe I'm in John chapter. Let me look at my notes. I've had so much going on kind of today. In John chapter 10, verse 22, this is Jesus Christ at the Feast of the Dedication during the wintertime, which is going to be November running through December, according to our calendar. The Hebrew calendar, they do not divide their months like we do. This month is going to be run for 2 months, okay? Now, this is what he says. And it was, verse 22, chapter 10, John, was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter. Now, the Feast of Dedication is not found in the Old Testament. It is a New Testament feast. I preached on this probably a year ago. What the Feast of Dedication basically is, and we looked at this a little bit last week, what the Feast of Dedication is, it's also called the Feast of Lights. We know it, and Jews know it as known as Hanukkah. When you're talking about Hanukkah, you get it from John chapter 10. Now, it goes back prior to this, and do you remember we have discussed the Maccabean era, the 400 silent years in between the Testaments? This is when the Feast of the Dedication came about, because when Antiochus desecrated the Holy Temple and put the god Zeus in the temple and made everybody worship it. Judas Maccabean raised up an army and overthrew Antiochus, and then they rededicated the temple back to God. And this is where you get Hanukkah, okay? And that is why it is called either the Feast of Dedication or the Feast of Lights. And it is held on December the 25th. So December the 25th, we celebrate Christmas. That is why the Jews celebrate Hanukkah. All right? And this is where Jesus Christ is during this. Now, during this time, the great temple had this gigantic candelabra, that would descend down, and they would put candles all in this. And they would light all the candles. And then all the houses that was around the temple would put candles in their house. And they would describe it, even Josephus described it as Jerusalem was almost like a diamond sitting on top of a hill. That's how bright it was. So that is why Jesus describes, I am the light of the world. When he is describing I am the light of the world, he is actually in this general vicinity when he is describing this. Now, if you go back to Revelations chapter 21, when he describes that this city is coming down like a diamond, he references it back to John chapter 10 when they are having the dedication of feast, or the feast of dedication, or the festival of lights. He says that this is being described, this city that is coming down, okay? A literal city, not a pretend or a make-believe. A literal city coming down, he said it shone like a diamond, a translucent diamond, okay? That is what it is described as, okay? Now, continuing on, this is what this looks like, okay? And had a wall great and high. All right? Great and high. Now, when you look at that, or when you translate that from the Greek, when it says a wall great and high, it is describing two features of this wall. Not only do we have the height of it, but the word great means thickness of it. Okay? The thickness of this wall, and then the height of this wall. And we'll look at the dimensions and all this here in a second. And it had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels. Angels in the Old Testament and the New Testament were messengers. When we see the angels that are coming to the shepherds in the field, keeping watch over the flock by night, behold, an angel of the Lord came about them, the Lord was around them. The angels was messengers. They brought them a message, or brought them an announcement. So these angels at these 12 gates are either announcing something, or they are messengers of something. And when an angel is announcing or bringing a message, 99% of the time, what is he announcing or bringing a message about? Who is it about? Christ. What is heaven all about?
Christ.
New Jerusalem is all about Christ, okay? So we got 12 gates. Now, according to verse 17, these gates are going to be measured. These are gigantic gates. All right, now go back to verse 12. A gate is used to walk in and out of, right? If you get a fence around your house, a chain link fence, what is the one thing that you have to have in that chain link fence? Can't climb over it, can you? Some guy ever come to a chain link fence, is what kind of gate you want? My wife can just climb over it. We don't need one. You got to have a gate, right? And that is to walk in and walk out. Now you must remember, back during the New Testament times and the Old Testament times, they had gates in these cities, but they kept them closed. And the reason they kept them closed was why? Keep people out. There's no enemies now in this New Jerusalem. So is there any reason why these gates should remain closed? Then why do you have a gate? Huh?
Symbolic of the 12 tribes.
It's symbolic, but there's also a literal. Not angels. Us. That we can go in and out. This is the thinking. And I back it 100%. If you have a door that you can go in and out, in and out, in and out. Where, if we're living in this New Jerusalem, where are we going to want to go? To heaven. The thinking is, in modern day thinking, even in the Reformation movement, and I back this 100%, I agree, that we will have access not only to the new earth, but to heaven, the heaven where Christ is sitting at now. We are able to go in and we are able to go out. We are able to go in and do what we want to. Then if we are just compacted in this New Jerusalem and we're not allowed to leave, then shouldn't be any gates. That's why you have a gate there. And I'll tell you, and it says, and it's 12 gates. And it had 12 angels, and the names, and you're right on this, Ross, the names were written, they're on the names of the tribes of the children of Israel. Now, if you go back, you've got 12 gates in this city that are surrounded. We're going to look at the height and the thickness of these walls and gates. And on these, you've got 12 tribes of the children of Israel. If you want to know who the 12 tribes are, you go back to Genesis. You don't have to Genesis chapter. Hung around me also, I don't know where my books of the Bible are at. You go back to Genesis 49, it lists the 12 tribes. Genesis chapter 49, you have Reuben, have Simeon, you have Levi, you have Judah, Zebulun, Issachar, Dan, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, you have Benjamin. Now, you have to take Joseph out of that, because Joseph is going to be made up of two tribes. And those two tribes are going to be Ephraim and Manasseh. They combine to make the tribe of Joseph. Okay? Now, there's all you 12 tribes. Those names are going to be written on the gates. Go back to Revelation chapter 21. And it says, and the great wall, high, 12 gates, the 12 gates, 12 angels, names written thereon, and the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel are at the gates. This is how it is set up. Do you remember when we were studying in the book of Exodus? Did we have notice in the book of Numbers? Let me get to it. In the book of Numbers, you've got the camp that is set up like this. In the camp, you have 3 tribes on this side, 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and 3 on this side. Okay? 3, 6, 9, 12. The camp was a square. It was not oblong. It was not triangle. And of course, inside the camp, you had the sons of Levi that was stationed here along with Moses. Okay? So what this is looking like is you have a square city, and you have got 3 gates this side, 3 gates this side, 3 gates this side, 3 gates this side. Or they can line up 3 gates here, 3 gates here. And I think they line up 3 gates here, like this. Because in the book of Numbers, chapter 2, the tribes are lined up like this. But to make more sense of the New Jerusalem, you would think that the gates are going to be lined up like this to have access in and out. Okay? Now, it tells us, it says on the east 3, according to 13, north 3, south 3, and on the west 3 gates. You can go back basically to Numbers chapter 2. I believe it's Numbers chapter 2. Let me look. I could be wrong. I think it's Numbers chapter 2 where you find the gates.
What did you say?
Numbers chapter 2. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it is, yeah. I think it's Numbers chapter 2 where you actually have the gates, or the way they are set up around the tabernacle of Moses. Alright. Now, so it looks like a crystal stone, this New Jerusalem. It is bright, it is brilliant. And the reason that it is shining so bright and so brilliantly, who is the one providing the light? God. Because Jesus Christ says, I am the light of the world. Even in the book of John and even 1 John, it tells us, if you walk in the light, you walk with Christ. If you walk in the darkness, you do not walk with Christ. So Christ is the light of the world. Okay? Illumination. It is something that is bright, that can be seen. So in verse 12, you have the 12 gates, 12 angels, names of them. Now, verse 14, here we go. And it says, and the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So if we go back on this, you've got the 12 foundations, and if we've got our gates that are lined up like so, if they're lined up like this, your foundations are going to lie under these, all right? You're going to have a foundation that lays like this, foundation that lays like this, and so on and so forth. The foundations are what is supporting the gates. Jesus Christ, you remember he says, I am the sheep, I am the gate. If you want to enter into the sheepfold, who do you have to go through? Jesus, which is the door. A gate is also, it can be a gate, or it can be translated into Greek as a door. Now, in the book of Acts, onward, we have something that is called the apostolic message. The apostolic message is the message of the apostles. Whose message did the apostles preach? Jesus. So, their message, they are the foundation of the message of Christ, which is the gate. That is symbolic. If you have the foundation of the apostles, which is the apostolic message, since upon their apostolic message, they are upholding the gate or the door. And Jesus Christ says, I am the way, I am the door. Do you see how this is all starting to make sense now? Does it make sense? Okay. All right. Now, you're going to go home, so I don't know what he talked about. But anyway, all right. Now, let's look in 14 again. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them was the name of the 12 apostles. Okay? If you'll look in verse 15, I'm trying to get through. I know y'all might be ready for another book of the Bible. And he, the person, the angel that had one of the 7 vials is talking, and this is what he says. Okay? He says, I want you to take this, and I want you to look what he gives him. And he walked with me, and he had a golden rod. Okay? Not a reed. A golden rod. If you look at Ezekiel chapter 40 through 48, that is describing the millennial temple. Okay? Ezekiel is told that he is giving a wooden rod or a reed, which is found all over in that area in the valleys. It's just you get an idea, it's about the size of an umbrella, about 8 to 10 feet long. Okay? And also, he is told in Revelation chapter 11, verse 1. And there he gave me a reed like unto a rod. These are wooden. Okay? These are made out of wood. These are disposable. They will go back to nature. Once you know what I'm saying. But he is given now something that is not made out of wood. He is given something that is a solid golden reed. And he says, what I want you to do, I want you to go measure the city and the gates thereof and the wall. So he has got to measure city, wall, and gates. 3 things. Now this is how he is. This is the dimensions of this. I wrote it down here on the back, and it does not make much sense, but I want to turn it around. Do not write this down. All right? And don't say, hey, boy, I don't know how to write or spell or anything. This is what Jerusalem is going to look like. It is a city 4 square. And 4 square means it's same on every side, right? All right. So 4 square is going to be a cube. It is a cube city. And now, before we look at this, I want you to look now in verse 15. And he talked with me that had a golden rod. He said, measure the city, the gates, and the wall. Okay? Verse 16. And the city lieth 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth of it. And he measured the city with the reed. And this is the measurements of this city. All right, guys? It is going to be 12,000 furlongs. The length and breadth and height are equal. So the length of it, the height, and the breadth of it is all equal. And if you look at furlongs, we'll look at that in a second. And he measured the wall thereof. So there is a wall around this city. All right? Some kind of wall. It's going to be around this city. And that wall has how many gates? 12. Good job. It's got 12 gates. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits according to the measure of man, that is, of the angel. All right, now, he is told to measure the city. All right, and if you get rid of all the math and just, the city is going to be in square mileage 2,250,000 square miles in this new city, New Jerusalem, which equals miles is 1,500 miles long, 1,500 miles high, and 1,500 miles wide. Okay? 1,500 miles. Okay? So if you're looking, the length of it, if we start, when we get to this New Jerusalem, Me and Ross is going to walk. We're going to walk 1,500 miles to get to the length of it. To walk it, we want to walk the width of it. We're going to have to walk 1,500 miles. The height of it is 1,500 miles. Is this a big city? They said that it is 1,500 times bigger than London. London being one of the biggest cities in the world. This is 1,500 times bigger than London. Okay? Now, if we have this, and you've got walls, and then you have gates. All right? Now, you remember that he said, let me see if I can find it. It had a great wall. It was a wall great and high. So, the wall of this city, the New Jerusalem, if the city is 1,500 miles high, how high should your wall be? 1,500 miles high, the wall. Well, look at this. And he measured the wall, and it was thereof 140 cubits. That's thickness. So if we have a wall, if our city is 1,500 miles high, we're going to want to build a wall that is 1,500 miles high. But where does he get this cubits from? That is in verse 17. That is talking about the thickness of each wall. The thickness of each wall is going to be 216 feet thick. Pretty thick, isn't it? Okay? Now, just keep going. Basically, and this is how they figured this out. A city this size is here is the globe of America. Right here. There's where we live at in America. If you was to take this city and plunk it down right here in America, it would take up nearly the whole nation. That's a city. Okay? How many people can live in a city that wide? Mathematicians say at least 20 billion can live in a city this big. You know how many people have been alive that has taken a breath of life since the flood? 40 billion people. 40 billion.
How accurate is that number?
Just ballpark. 40 billion. So, is all those 40 billion going to heaven? Good. If you'd have said, yeah, I don't want it. Start over. Let's go back to Genesis. Now, he measured the wall, gates. So if the wall is 1,500 miles high, how high is the gate got to be? 1,500 miles high. Okay? Now, and people will say, Watkins, that's ridiculous. A God that can make a universe, he can make this. All right? So just deal with it. Now he is going to describe the actual colors and what is in it. The foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stone. The foundations of the wall of the city. The foundations of the wall, the foundations that lie under the gates, okay? Or under the wall. And these are how he is described. Now, 8 out of the 12 that we're going to look at are basically was found in the high priest ephod or the breastplate of the high priest. Now, a lot of these names through the years have changed. A lot of these names are old Greek names or Old Testament names. If you was to walk into a jewelry store and tell them you wanted, barrel, they're going to look at you and don't know what you're talking about. So a lot of these are Old Testament names. So the city is what color? It's the color of the diamond. It is translucent. You can see. All right? But people say, well, if you got a wall around, we need privacy. We don't need no privacy. You know? Okay? Now, let's look. And it says, and there were 12 stones, and the first one was jasper, second sapphire, third is chalcedony, which is it's a blue translucent type stone. The fourth is emerald, which if you're a fan of the Wizard of Oz is what color? Green. Sapphire is blue. Jasper is kind of it's a red, but now it's being described back according to chapter verse 11 as a clear diamond. Okay. We have sardonyx, which is going to be a red-white type stone. A sardius, which is a red stone. Chrysolite is a yellowish stone. Beryl is a sea green. Topaz, yellow green. Chrysoprase is a green stone. Jacinth is purple. And amethyst is also a purplish stone. So those are the colors that are going to be in there. Now, look at verse 21. This is what is neat. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Okay, we got how many gates?
12.
How many pearls?
12.
So each gate is made up of how many?
One pearl.
One pearl. One pearl that is at least 1,500 miles high. How much? And I'm not being, ladies, I don't know nothing about pearls. Okay? How much, ballparking, how much does a pearl cost? I swear I don't know. If you go to Saks Fifth Avenue, I think that's a clothing store, I don't know. You say, I want one pearl. What are they going to charge? And I want the best. I don't want one that's come out of a sick oyster that's, had a cold or the flu. I want a great pearl. How much? Seriously, y'all even know?
Just a plain necklace.
You can tell who buys them, huh?
Lowercase, like $125, $150 just for a
And that's not God's pearls.
That's not true pearl, is it? That's not.
Yeah, it is.
He's like, oh crap, I've been buying her drill.
The one I bought,
He wouldn't buy that.
I spent all week digging those.
Alright, so we got 12 gates, 12 pearls. Each several gate of one pearl. One pearl of this gate. And we think about how, and if you ever watched, there used to be a show called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Shows you how old I am, with Robin Leach. God, I can't believe I know his name. Shut up, Paul. You probably watched it too. And it'd say Lifestyles of the Rich, and they would show these houses. And people are like, ooh, ah. You take one gate of this, and I take just a quarter panel of the gate, and you could buy the world. I mean, this is what is neat. This is where we are going to live. Y'all know that? That's our residence, but we don't have to stay there. We have gates that we can come in, and that is where we're going. That's pretty neat, isn't it? That's when people say, I don't have much here, but I've got some. And that is the honest to God. That is where we are going to live. Okay? So you have pearls, one pearl, and streets of the city were pure gold. I've heard 1,000 times preachers will say, when I get to heaven, I'm going to walk streets of gold. Streets of gold is not in heaven. You know where they're at? New Jerusalem. Okay? So you got all of these. I don't even know if you can't even put a price tag.
But Chris, the streets of gold in that, the gold is going to be so pure, it's going to be translucent.
It's going to be translucent because it says it is like transparent glass.
It's going to be so pure.
You can't describe it. You can Google images of the New Jerusalem, and you're not even going to get close to what this place is going to look like. This is where we're going to stay at. And then he says, and I saw the greatest thing in the Old Testament was the greatest man-made thing, let me put it that, in the Old Testament was the Temple of Solomon. The greatest. The greatest thing in the New Testament was the Temple of Herod. It took them 40-something years to build it. And if you are a Jew, you remember when the disciples was walking through Jerusalem and they were just enamored of this massive temple. And Jesus looks at them and says, in 3 days I can tear it down and build it up. But they thought he was talking about his body. And it says, and I saw no temple therein. So in the Old Testament, where did God reside? In the temple, in the holies of holies, the most holy place, over the mercy seat, which is the Ark of the Covenant. If you're in the Old Testament, the only person that could see God's glory or his Shekinah glory is the high priest. And he was only over the mercy seat. In the New Testament, the temple still had a lot of relevance, because you remember when Jesus Christ healed the 10 lepers, where did he tell them to go? Go show yourself to the where? Where did the priest live at? Temple. So it still had a lot of, a glamour. But now it says in this New Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is where the temple is at. Okay? And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple. And this is what is neat. If they are the temple, Jesus Christ says, I go to prepare a place for you. You know what he's preparing? Look. God's going to be at the temple there. That is, and this is what is amazing. Do you know where the Holy Spirit is housed at right now?
Yes.
In us. You know what's going to be housed at when we get to heaven? Christ, the temple, everywhere. And the city, this is what I like. And the city had no need of sun nor moon to shine it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. There's no need for sun or moon or anything, because God's light is going to be there. And the nations of them, I'm about to close, which are saved, the nations of people which are saved, not lost. The only way you are going to be able to live in the New Jerusalem is that you are what? Saved. All right? That is the only way. Which are saved shall walk in the light thereof. Jesus Christ says, if you walk in the light, you know where you're going, you will not stumble. People that walk in the dark, they stumble, don't they? And it says, shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it, and the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day. So we have free access to go in and go out. There's no need in shutting the gates, because for there shall be no night there. When did you shut the gates if you lived in the Old Testament? Nighttime. During the day you opened them up. And he's basically saying, forever, their gates are going to be open. Walk in and out anytime you want to. We're not going to be floating around on a cloud. We're going to have access to Christ, have access to God. And there shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. Now, if this city is being built right now, where is our loved ones that are saved? Where do they go when they die? There's no New Jerusalem right now.
Is that what they refer to as paradise?
That's Old Testament.
They lie asleep in the grave, don't they?
They're in heaven. They are where God is at right now, which is in heaven. If we were to die, God forbid, tonight, we would wake up in heaven. Okay? Our bodies lie sleeping in the ground, but our spirit is with the God. Now, those people that are in heaven with Christ now, they are going to be able to leave heaven and visit this New Jerusalem, go in and out of the gates, and that's why I always have a problem with people that say heaven is a frame of mind. The New Jerusalem no, it is a place. This New Jerusalem is a place.
Yeah, let me ask a question. Back to sleep in the grave. Of course, if you die, you go to heaven. Why were the graves going to burst open?
Because your body is going to meet, when the graves burst open, your spirit comes and is rejoined with your body.
You'll have a perfect body like Christ.
You know, when Jesus Christ rose from the grave, there was also other graves that was burst open. Their spirit, when you die, you're in the presence. You remember in the New Testament, when the rich man died, he went to hell. The poor man died, he was in paradise or heaven. When Jesus Christ died or rose from the grave, others rose up. And they were saying they walked into Jerusalem. Their spirit leaves, comes and rejoins their body. You can't have a soulless body or a spiritless body walking around.
So this stinking broken body that we live in will be refurbished as a new...
Oh yeah, you'll be like
join for the Spirit.
Oh yeah. Your spirit will be rejoined with the new body, new everything. There's no sickness. But the sad thing about that is, and there has been a debate after debate after debate. When Lazarus died, Lazarus, the one that was raised from the grave, did his soul leave his body or did it stay there? Did his soul leave his body and go to paradise, because this is before Christ died, or did his soul simply stay with his body because he knew it was going to have to be rejoined?
Okay, back up to what I asked you last week.
You want her to refresh me?
You know, I about forgot it myself. But anyway, if you're lost, never accepted Christ, you're buried in the grave. Only certain graves are going to burst open, and that person, or that body or soul, whatever, is already in hell. Is that right? What about the body? Some graves will break open, some will not.
Some graves will break open. The ones that's going to break open are going to be the ones that's saved.
Yeah.
Because if you break a grave open that's of a lost person, then...
There's no need of breaking that.
Yeah. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can have debate after debate after debate what is going to happen. And we said this before we even started Revelations. In all honesty, it is still all a great mystery. It really is. Is there a New Jerusalem? It's being prepared as we speak. It tells us, let me finish this, 27, and then we will be done next week, guys. Wow. And there shall be no, I cannot see, and there shall be in no wise enter into anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh an abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. The only people that are going to be there are Christians, are saved people. I hope that you have enjoyed this. Next week, I'm going to try to finish up with chapter 22. I would like to go through Genesis. That will take a lot longer to do. If you guys want to go through Genesis, we can. Since we went through the last book of the Bible, I thought it would be fitting to go through the first book of the Bible. And what is amazing is how in the book of Revelations, it is an end to everything. An end to sin, an end to the devil, an end to everything. But in the book of Genesis, it is the beginning of everything. We've looked at the end, but now we're going to see what the beginning was like. Dear Heavenly Father, we love you and we thank you. We know that right now you are there preparing this place. Do we know what it looks like? No. Do we have the mind to vision it? No. But we know, dear God, that you are making it. It's going to be a place, dear God, that is beyond belief. And dear God, one of these days it's going to be a place that there is no cancer, no sickness, no death, no sin, no saying goodbye. We're just going to be there with you. We love you and we thank you, dear God. In your name we pray. Amen. Next week.
Do you think within this cube there are levels, like floors?
No. What is neat, we'll describe what's on the outside, never what's on. We'll describe what the road looks like, and we're going to be described there is a fountain. I don't know if there's...
I can't imagine 20 billion or 40 billion. Whatever.
I know what you're talking about. We're not going to be... I don't believe we're going to be floating around like spirits and stuff. I think we're going to be mobile.
Why would you have a
Walk
wall?
around like we do now.
Yeah, I think we'll be mobile. I think we'll be...
Skyscrapers.
Yeah, I think that we're going to be... This is my opinion. I think we're going to have the same body that Christ did when he was here on earth. Be able to walk, talk, communicate. Will we know each other in heaven? Yes. I mean, we're fools down here now and we know each other. What are we going to be like in heaven? We're going to be perfect. So, yes, we're going to know each other. There's a lot that is not taught. There's a lot that's not in the scriptures that people basically have to, I don't want to say imagine or make up, but they just have to kind of piece together what the Jewish tradition was and then kind of build on that. Because it's got a water of life, it's got a water coming out, 12 manner of fruits, things like that. But the main thing about Revelations, and I wanted to save this to last, the main thing about Revelations is not studying the Antichrist or the false prophet or anything. The main point in the book of Revelations is found in chapter 22, verse 7. Behold, I come quickly. That's the main point. So maybe you guys enjoyed it.